The morning Hazel turned 16, nobody remembered. This was not a new experience. She had spent enough birthdays in enough houses to understand that birthdays, when you were a ward of the state cycling through the foster care system of Western Tennessee, were not guaranteed events. They required the specific coincidence of a placement that had been stable long enough for someone to know your date, and a family that had the particular bandwidth to mark it, and a calendar that cooperated, and sometimes all three of those things failed to align, and the day passed like any other Tuesday. This one was a Tuesday. She woke at 6:15 because she always woke at 6:15. She'd set her internal clock to it 2 years ago, and it had never betrayed her. She dressed in the dark because the room she shared with 2 other girls at the Callaway foster home on Route 4 had one window facing north, and in February the north-facing window brought nothing useful at 6 in the morning. She made her bed with the precision she brought to all things, tight corners, pillow-centered, because making her bed was something she controlled, and she valued the things she controlled. She was 16 years old. She had dark blonde hair she kept in a careful braid because a braid was efficient and she valued efficiency. She had gray eyes that were her mother's eyes. She knew this from a photograph she'd carried for 4 years, folded once and kept inside the front cover of whichever book she was currently reading. She was not tall and not short, and had the particular quality of someone who moved through spaces with awareness, not nervously, not with the heightened alertness of a frightened animal, but with the consciousness of someone who had learned to know where she was at all times. She went downstairs. Mrs. Callaway was in the kitchen making oatmeal for the 7 children currently in her care. She was a practical woman who kept a practical house and who was neither warm nor cold, who was, in Hazel's assessment, the best of a type, competent, fair, consistent, with the limitations of someone running a business and the genuine qualities of someone who also cared, these 2 things coexisting without canceling each other out. Hazel poured coffee from the pot. Mrs. Callaway looked at her. "Morning, Hazel." "Morning," Hazel said. She drank her coffee and watched the window and waited for the school bus. Nobody said happy birthday. She was not surprised. She was also not, she examined honestly, fine. The not fine was a small, quiet thing that she kept in its box and managed the way she managed all small, quiet things, by acknowledging its presence and then setting it to the side and getting on with the things that required getting on with. She had learned this from a book, actually, the management technique. From a book about a woman who had been through things and had developed the practice of naming what she felt and then setting it on a shelf so she could see it without it running her. Hazel had read the book 3 times. She kept the technique. She got on the school bus. She went to school. She came home. On the porch of the Callaway foster home, sitting in the particular way of someone who was not entirely sure where to put themselves, there was a man she had never seen before. He was large. This was the first thing she processed. Large in the specific way of certain men, where the size was not performance but accumulation, the body of someone who had been doing physical things for a long time and had the physical evidence of it. He was sitting on the porch steps and sitting large, taking up space without effort, and he had a beard that had gone gray and dark eyes, and arms that were covered in tattoos that disappeared into the sleeves of the leather jacket he was wearing. The leather jacket had patches. Hazel knew what the patches meant. She'd been in enough placements in enough parts of Tennessee to have absorbed the basic cultural vocabulary of the area, including what leather cuts with patches meant. She stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. He looked at her. She looked at him. "Hazel Marie Callaway?" he said. He said the full name, her foster care file name, the name the system used. "Just Hazel," she said. "My last name is Pierce." This was true. The Pierce was her original last name, her real name, the one from before. He looked at her for a moment. Then he nodded, like he was accepting a correction. "Hazel Pierce," he said. "I'm Russell Dade." "Okay," she said. She did not know what to do with this information. She did not know this man. "I'm your mother's—" "I was a friend of your mother's," he said. "A long time ago." Hazel looked at him. Her mother had been dead for 4 years. She had died in the way that people who had had difficult lives sometimes died. Not dramatically, not in a single moment, but by degrees, by the accumulation of choices and circumstances, and the particular grinding of a life that had too much taken from it and not enough given back. She had died in a hospice in Nashville when Hazel was 12, and Hazel had been at a placement in Cookville, and nobody had told her until a week later, which was a thing she had put on the shelf and kept there, because taking it down would require more than she had available to spend on it. "I know she passed," Russell said. "I'm sorry. I've been trying to find you. It took longer than I wanted." Hazel looked at him. The assessment she'd developed for adults she didn't know. The rapid reading of signals. He was not fidgeting. He was not performing emotion. He was sitting on the porch steps in the February cold with his large hands on his knees and his dark eyes on her face, and he was there, just there, without an agenda she could immediately detect. "Why were you trying to find me?" she said. He was quiet for a moment. "Your mother and I were close," he said. "A long time ago, before..." He paused. "Before things went the way they went. I knew about you. I've been thinking about trying to find you for a while." "Why now?" she said. He looked at her directly. "Because I heard you were 16, he said. She looked at him. "Today," she said. "Today's my birthday." Something moved through his face. "I know," he said. "Happy birthday, Hazel." She stood at the bottom of the porch steps on her 16th birthday in February, with her backpack over one shoulder and her book with the photograph inside it, and a stranger who knew her mother looked at her and said happy birthday, and she did not know what to do with any of it. She went inside. He did not follow. He sat on the porch steps. When Mrs. Calloway asked who he was, Hazel said she didn't know exactly, and Mrs. Calloway went outside, and they talked for 20 minutes, and Mrs. Calloway came back and said the man wanted to see her again, if she was willing. "What did you tell him?" Hazel said. "I told him that was up to you," Mrs. Calloway said. She went back out at 4 in the afternoon. He was still there. He had not moved, which struck her as significant. Most people did not wait on porch steps in February for 2 hours. The cold was real, not extreme, but the kind of consistent cold that became a statement the longer you stayed in it. She sat on the step above him. He looked up at her. "My mother," she said. "Tell me how you knew her." He thought about how to answer. She could see him thinking, the specific quality of someone organizing truth rather than constructing a story. "We met when we were both young and in a bad situation," he said. "I was 22, she was 20. We were in a city that neither of us had grown up in, doing what people did in those days to get by. We were friends first, then more." He paused. "It didn't last in the romantic sense. We weren't the right fit for that, but we were. We stayed important to each other." "What city?" Hazel said. "Memphis," he said. "Your mother was from Tennessee originally. I wasn't. I came from Alabama." Hazel thought about the photograph. Her mother at some age before Hazel. Young, still young, with the smile that was in the photograph that Hazel carried but that she couldn't quite reconstruct from memory, only from the photograph. "What was she like?" Hazel said, "when you knew her?" He was quiet for a moment. "Funny," he said. "Your mother she was the funniest person in any room. Not loud funny, the kind of funny that surprised you. Like you'd say something and she'd come back with something that made you understand you hadn't finished thinking yet." He looked at the porch railing. She cared about things deeply, more than she showed. She had a way of acting like things didn't get to her, and then you'd see something and you'd know they did." Hazel looked at her boots. "She didn't talk about you," Hazel said. "To me. She talked about some things. Some people from her past. Not all of it." "I know," he said. "I found letters once," she said. "When I was about 9. In a box she kept. I didn't read them. She found me with the box and she was upset and she put them away. I didn't know who they were from." He was quiet. "They might have been mine," he said. She looked at him. "You wrote to her." "For a few years," he said. "After we went separate ways. I lost track of her eventually. I didn't know she'd gotten sick until recently." Hazel looked at the yard. She thought about her mother, who had been many things and not always the best of them, who had loved Hazel in the imperfect and sometimes inadequate way of someone who was fighting too many other things simultaneously. She thought about the box of letters and the upset look on her mother's face that had not been anger but something more complicated. "What do you want?" Hazel said. "From me specifically. What are you here for?" He looked at her directly. "I don't know how to say this simply," he said. "Try," she said. "I'm 48 years old," he said. "I have a life that I built in the years since your mother. I have a business. I do custom motorcycle work. I have a shop. I have the club, which is part of who I am. I have a house. I've been alone in that house for a long time." He paused. "I don't have a family in the conventional sense. I have the club, which is a family, but it's different. She waited. "I found out about you being in the system," he said. "I found out you'd been in the system for 4 years. And I thought about what it would look like to do something about that." Hazel looked at him. "You want to foster me?" she said. "I want to try to give you something better than what you have," he said. "I'm not going to pretend that's simple or that I know what it looks like. I know it requires you to be willing. I know it requires a process." She was quiet. "Why?" she said. The same question she always asked. The base question. "You don't know me." "I knew your mother," he said. "That's the starting point. What you do with it is up to you." She looked at him. She was 16 years old. She had been in 4 placements in 4 years. She had learned the calculus of these situations with a thoroughness that she sometimes found grim and sometimes found useful. She had learned that people offered things for various reasons, and that the reasons mattered more than the offers. She was reading him. "You didn't come here on my birthday by accident," she said. He met her gaze. "No," he said. "You've been waiting until I was 16, she said. "Yes," he said. "Why 16 specifically?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because at 16 you're closer to being your own person," he said. "Because a child at 12 or 13, you're still so much in the system's hands, so much in whatever household you're in. At 16 you have more. You have more of yourself already. The decision means more." She looked at him for a long time. "I want to think about it," she said. "Of course," he said. "I'll talk to Mrs. Calloway and my caseworker." "I already spoke with your caseworker," he said. "Before I came here. Her name is Sandra." "I know her name," Hazel said. "She told me to come," he said. "She said the decision was yours." Hazel stood up from the step. She picked up her backpack. She looked at him from her standing height. "What's your name again?" she said. "Russell Dade," he said. "Russell," she said. "I'll think about it." She went inside. She went to her room. She sat on her made bed in the north-facing room and she looked at the wall. She took out the book she was reading and she opened the front cover and she looked at the photograph of her mother. She thought about letters in a box. She called Sandra the next morning from the school library. Sandra had been her caseworker for 2 years and was, in Hazel's careful assessment, one of the better ones. She was practical in the way that the good caseworkers were practical. She did not use optimistic language she couldn't back up. She did not make promises she couldn't keep. She was direct about the facts of a situation and trusted Hazel to receive them. "Tell me about him," Hazel said. "He came to me first," Sandra said. 3 weeks ago. He's been clear about his connection to your mother. They knew each other in Memphis in their 20s. He's been honest about the gaps in that history. He's not pretending to be something he's not." "What's his record?" Hazel said. Sandra paused. "He has a record from his 20s, she said. "Nothing violent. Nothing after he was 25. He's been clean for 23 years. "What was it?" "Nothing I'm going to discuss in detail," Sandra said. "What I'll say is that 23 years of nothing is a significant fact. People are who they've been recently, not just who they were." "He's in a motorcycle club," Hazel said. "Yes," Sandra said. "Does that?" "We've done a full evaluation of his home, his lifestyle, his business. The home study is complete. He passed." Sandra paused. "Hazel, I'm not going to sell you on this. I'm not going to tell you it's the obvious right choice. I'm going to tell you that in my assessment, he's genuine, and the offer is genuine, and the decision is entirely yours. If I say no, then he goes home," Sandra said, "and we continue with current placement. Nothing changes except that you said no. What if I say yes and then it doesn't work?" "Then it doesn't work," Sandra said, "and we figure out the next thing, same as always." Hazel was quiet. "I've never had a placement with a single man," she said. "I know," Sandra said. "It's less common. It's not prohibited. The evaluation process is more thorough." "Is there anything about him that concerned you?" Hazel said. "During the evaluation." Sandra thought about this. She took a moment, which Hazel appreciated. She could have given the reassuring, quick answer. She didn't. "He's not easy," Sandra said finally. "He's direct to the point of bluntness. He doesn't have experience with teenagers. He has no children of his own. He lives in a way that is not typical. The club, the shop, the lifestyle. Those aren't necessarily negatives, but they're differences." She paused. "What didn't concern me was his motivation. I believe he means what he said. That he wants to give me something better, Hazel said. Yes, Sandra said. She went back to the porch on Saturday. He was there again. Not the porch steps this time. He'd called ahead, talked to Mrs. Calloway, and was sitting in the chair on the porch with a coffee cup that she suspected Mrs. Calloway had given him, because Mrs. Calloway had a practical hospitality that extended to people sitting on her porch regardless of whether they were expected. Hazel sat on the steps. She'd been thinking for 3 days. Tell me about your life, she said. What it actually looks like, day to day. He looked at her, nodded, accepting the question. I get up at 5:30, he said. I make coffee. I read for about 45 minutes. I read every morning, have since I was about 30. He paused, looking at her reaction, and she kept her face neutral. I go to the shop by 7. I do custom motorcycle work, rebuilds, custom builds, modifications. I have 2 people who work for me. The shop's on Industrial Road, been there for 11 years. What's a typical day, she said. Work until 5 or 6, he said. Sometimes later if I'm in the middle of something. Evening depends. A few nights a week there's club business, meetings, runs, the events we do. Otherwise I go home, make dinner, read more. You live alone, she said. Yes, he said. For how long? Most of my life, he said. I had a long relationship in my 30s, 7 years. We didn't marry. It ended. He said this without drama or self-pity, just the factual account of someone who had lived through things without being destroyed by them. Where do you live? She said. Birchwood, he said. She knew Birchwood, the county east of here, 30 miles. House on the edge of town. It's on some land, about 4 acres. Workshop space, which I use, a yard. What's the house like? He thought about this with the specific care of someone who wanted to give an accurate answer. It's a good house, he said. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, kitchen that works. It's not fancy. It's been mine for 14 years and I've kept it up. It has, he paused. It has the quality of a place that someone lives in, not a showplace, a home. She looked at her boots. What would my room be like? She said. Your room would be yours, he said. I haven't decorated it or anything. I figured if you were interested, you'd want to decide what it looked like. She looked at him. You haven't done up the room, she said. No, he said. Why not? Because I didn't want to assume, he said. Because a room is a personal thing. I didn't want to put a lot of pink on the walls and have you come in and hate pink. She almost smiled. I don't hate pink, she said. I also don't love it. Good, he said. We can figure it out together. She was quiet. The club, she said. What does that actually mean? For me, if I came. He met her eyes. It means I'm part of a community, he said. The chapter has meetings and runs and social events. Some of it I'd want you at, not because you'd be required, but because the people in the club are my family and I'd want you to know them. Some of it isn't for you. That's club business, and club business is separate. The people in the club, she said. Are they? They're people, he said. Good ones, mostly. A few who are work in progress, like everyone. He paused. The person you'd probably spend the most time with is Patrick Callahan. He's my vice president. He's been my closest friend for 15 years. He has a wife and 2 kids. Normal family. They do Sunday dinners. Sunday dinners, she said. Every Sunday, he said. Patrick's wife Connie cooks. I go most weeks. If you came, you'd be included. She absorbed this. School, she said. I'm at Jefferson High now. I'd have to change schools. I know, he said. Birchwood County High. It has a good program. I looked into it. You looked into the school, she said. Before I came, he said. I looked into several things. She looked at the yard. I'm a junior, she said. I have 2 years left. I don't want anything to jeopardize graduation. It won't, he said. I can promise you that. Your education is... He stopped. Whatever else happens, your education is the thing that doesn't get compromised. She looked at him. You feel strongly about that, she said. Yes, he said. Why? He was quiet for a moment. Because I didn't have it, he said. Properly. I educated myself after. But in the normal way, I didn't get what I should have gotten. I know what that costs. He looked at the yard. You're going to have it. She sat on the steps and she thought about those words. You're going to have it. And what they meant, said with that particular certainty. The certainty of someone who had decided something was true before it was verified. Russell, she said. Yeah. Why do you think this is a good idea? She said. Honestly, because I'm going to ask you the real version of this question. He looked at her. Ask it, he said. You're a 48-year-old man who has lived alone most of his life, she said. You've built a specific life, your way, on your terms. And now you want to take in a 16-year-old girl you've never met, who comes with 4 years of the system, which means whatever I'm carrying from that. You don't know what I'm carrying. You don't know who I am. You've done this research and this preparation, but... She stopped. Why? What made you decide this was something you wanted to do? He was quiet for a long time. The February cold was in the air between them. A car went past on Route 4. Somewhere in the yard, a bird made the specific sound of a bird that was in the wrong season and knew it. I've been asking myself the same question, he said, since I decided to look for you. What's your answer? He thought about it with the seriousness it deserved. Part of it is your mother, he said. Knowing her, knowing what she was, knowing that what happened to her was wrong in the ways that things were wrong. Part of it is feeling that I owe something. Not to her directly, it's too late for that, but to what she left. He paused. And part of it is that I'm 48 years old, and I look at my life and I see what's in it, and I see what's not in it. And I know that the things not in it are not going to fill themselves without me doing something different. And part of it, she said. He met her eyes. And part of it is that I've been thinking about you since I found out you existed, he said. Specifically you. Not a concept. You, your mother's daughter, who's been in the system for 4 years, and who, according to every person I've talked to, is smart and serious, and holds herself together with a discipline that shouldn't be necessary for a 16-year-old. I've been thinking about a specific person, and whether that person deserved something better than what they had, and whether I could be any part of providing it. Hazel looked at him. She thought about the box of letters her mother had kept. The upset look that was not anger. She thought about what it meant that those letters had been kept. I need more time, she said. Take what you need, he said. I'm going to talk to a few more people, she said. I have a teacher who I trust. I'm going to tell her about this. Okay, he said. And I'm going to want to see the house, she said. Before I decide anything, I want to see where I'd be going. Whenever you're ready, he said. Just tell me. She stood up. She picked up her backpack. One more question, she said. Yeah. What do you want me to call you? She said. If I came. You're not my father. You're not a relation. What do you want me to call you? He thought about it. Russell is fine, he said. For now. She noted the for now. She went inside. Her teacher's name was Ms. Whitfield. She taught AP English, and she had the quality that the best teachers had. She saw her students as the full people they were, rather than the functions they served. And she had been observing Hazel for 2 years with the specific attention of someone who recognized something and was deciding what to do with the recognition. Hazel told her on Monday. She laid it out with the same directness she brought to everything. The facts, the sequence, the situation. She did not editorialize. She told Ms. Whitfield what Russell had said, and what Sandra had said, and what she was thinking. Ms. Whitfield listened without interrupting. How do you feel about it? She said when Hazel finished. I don't know yet, Hazel said. That's why I'm telling you. What's your hesitation? Several things, Hazel said. She enumerated them because she thought in organized structures. I'd have to change schools, which means changing 2 years before graduation. I don't know this man. The life he leads is different from anything I've had before, and she paused. And, Ms. Whitfield said, and I've learned not to get attached to things, she said. In 4 years, I've learned that getting attached to places and people in placements it's a setup. So I've managed not to. And if I go there and something happens and it doesn't work, the detachment you've built is protective, Ms. Whitfield said. And also, in the long run, costly. Hazel looked at her. Yes, she said, I know that. What would you need to feel more confident, Ms. Whitfield said, if you could name it? I'd need to see the house, Hazel said. I'd need to know it's real. When he talks about it, I believe him. or I believe he's telling the truth as he knows it. But I need to see it. What else? Hazel thought. I'd need to know what he expects from me, she said. Specifically, not generalities, specifically. You could ask him that directly, Ms. Whitfield said. I'm going to, Hazel said. Ms. Whitfield looked at her for a moment. Hazel, she said. Yes. In 2 years you're 18, she said. You age out of the system. What happens then? Hazel had thought about this extensively, with the planning mindset she brought to things she could control. I apply for the program extensions, she said. There are housing assistance programs for youth aging out. I've researched them, and I'm applying to colleges. The fee waivers are available for system kids. I have a plan. You have a plan, Ms. Whitfield said. And it's a good one. And it's also, Hazel, you have a plan because you've had to make one. You've had to plan for the version of your life where nobody else was planning for you. Hazel was quiet. I know, she said. This man is offering a different version, Ms. Whitfield said. Not better automatically. Different. One where someone else is also planning. For you, specifically. Hazel looked at the desk. That's a harder thing to trust, she said. I know, Ms. Whitfield said. It's harder to trust because it could be taken away. Your plan can't be taken away. It's yours. Yes, Hazel said. But your plan requires you to be alone in it, Ms. Whitfield said. And there's a cost to that. Hazel was quiet. Yes, she said. I know that too. She went to see the house on a Saturday in late February. Sandra came with her. This had been arranged through the proper channels. The visit as part of the evaluation process. Sandra drove. Russell met them at the end of the driveway. The house was at the end of a road that was not quite a lane, but was narrower than a full street, with trees on both sides. Not dramatic trees, not pretty in the way of a painting. Just real trees, bare in February, the specific reality of deciduous trees in winter. The house was white with a black roof and a porch that had been recently repaired. She noticed this, the newness of the boards relative to the rest of the structure. There was a workshop building to the left, larger than she'd imagined, with the doors currently closed. The yard was what yards were in winter, brown and waiting. It was not a beautiful property. It was a real one. She got out of Sandra's car. She stood in the driveway, and she looked at the house. Russell stood near her. Whenever you're ready, he said. She walked to the front door. He unlocked it and held it open. Inside. The first thing she noticed was the books. The house had books the way some houses had photographs, on shelves, on surfaces, in the particular organization of someone who read consistently and had been doing so for a long time. Not display books, the kind that lived on shelves as furniture. Read books, handled books, books with dog ears and pencil marks visible on the ones she was close enough to see. She stopped in the hallway. She looked at the shelf nearest her. History. American history, world history, specific periods. Beside those, biography. Beside those, what looked like technical books about motorcycles and engines. Beside those, fiction. A range she couldn't fully inventory, but could see included things she recognized. You read a lot, she said. Every day, he said. You said that? She said. I didn't fully picture it. Now you see, he said. She moved through the house. The living room had the quality of a room that someone actually used. A chair with a good lamp that was positioned exactly right for reading. A couch that had the settled look of years of use. A table with things on it that were being used rather than displayed. It was not messy. It was not perfectly ordered. It was in between, which was the signature of someone who maintained their space without making the maintenance an end in itself. The kitchen was functional and clean. There was a coffee maker that looked like it worked hard for its living. There were things in the refrigerator. She could see through the glass. Actual food. Not full, but not empty. Do you cook? She said. Enough to feed myself properly, he said. I can do better if required. I cook, she said. He looked at her. Yeah? I've cooked in most of my placements, she said. Some families wanted help. I didn't mind. I like cooking. Then we'd figure that out, he said. He said it simply, without making it a transaction. Just, we'd figure it out. She went upstairs. He showed her the room. It was empty. Not empty as in unfurnished. There was a bed, a dresser, a desk. But it was bare in the way of a room that was waiting to be inhabited. No decorations on the walls, nothing personal. a clean room that had no history yet. She stood in the middle of it. She looked at the window, south-facing, she noted. Sunlight in the mornings and afternoons. She looked at the desk. She looked at the walls. You could do whatever you wanted with it, he said. Colors, arrangement, whatever makes it yours. She looked at the south-facing window. She thought about the north-facing room at the Calloway foster home and its useless February light. It gets light in the morning, she said. Southeast-facing, he said. You'll get it from about 8 until noon, then again in the afternoon from the west side. She stood in the room. She thought about what she needed. She needed to be honest with herself about what she needed, not what she wanted, which was a different and more dangerous category, but what she needed. She had spent 4 years being careful about that distinction. She needed stability. She needed to graduate. She needed to not be in a situation that would get worse. She stood in the room and she thought about whether those things were available here. Russell, she said. He was in the doorway. What do you expect from me? She said. Specifically, not in general terms. He came to the doorway more fully. He leaned on the frame. Go to school, he said, consistently, seriously. That's the primary thing, and it's non-negotiable. Okay, she said. Be honest with me, he said. If something's wrong, if something's not working, I need you to tell me directly. I can't fix what I don't know about. And if I don't think you can fix it, she said, then tell me that too, he said. But give me the chance. She nodded. What else? She said. That's most of it, he said. I'm not going to have a list of rules that's longer than it needs to be. I expect basic things. Be where you say you're going to be. Be honest. Hold up your end of things at home. That's it. She looked at the wall. What do I get? She said. In exchange. He looked at her directly. A room that's yours, he said. Food. School with nothing in the way of it. Someone who shows up. Someone who's going to be there when you get home. He paused. I can't give you a history. I can't give you what you should have had and didn't. What I can give you is what comes next. She stood in the empty room and she thought about what comes next. I need a week, she said. Take it, he said. She said yes. She said it to Sandra on a Wednesday, on the phone, in 12 words. I've decided I want to try it. Tell him yes. Sandra said she'd start the paperwork. Hazel went to school on Thursday and Friday, and on Saturday she packed what she had, which was not much. Clothes, books, the photograph, some things that were hers and hers only. She put them in the 2 bags that were everything she owned. She said goodbye to the 2 girls in her room, both of whom were younger, and one of whom cried, which Hazel received without knowing entirely what to do with it, but standing with her hand on the girl's back the way she'd seen done, and hoping that was enough. She said goodbye to Mrs. Calloway, who shook her hand and said, You're a capable girl, Hazel. See that it's worth something. I will, Hazel said. Russell picked her up in his truck. He helped with the bags, not taking over, just taking one of the 2, leaving the other for her to carry. They put them in the back of the truck. She got in. He drove. The 30 miles between Route 4 and Birchwood County happened in relative quiet. Not uncomfortable quiet. The quiet of 2 people who were not yet sure of the register of their relationship and were being careful with the not sureness. About 20 miles in, he said, Are you okay? Yes, she said. You don't have to be okay, he said. She looked at him. I know that, she said. I'm telling you I actually am. He accepted this. They drove the rest of the way in quiet. When they pulled into the driveway of the house on the road with the bare February trees, she sat in the truck for a moment after he turned off the engine. She looked at the house. Russell, she said. Yeah. I need you to know something, she said. He waited. I don't do things halfway, she said. If I'm going to try this, I'm going to try it properly. I'm not going to hold back and see what happens. I'm going to do the work. He looked at her. Good, he said. But if it doesn't work, if this doesn't work for reasons on your end, reasons I can't control, I need you to be honest about that, before it gets bad. I've been in placements that went bad slowly, and it was worse than the ones that ended quickly. I'll be honest, he said. That's a promise I can keep. She looked at the house. Okay, she said. She got out of the truck. She picked up her bag. She walked through the front door. The first month was the month of learning. Not dramatic learning, not the discovery of fundamental incompatibilities or the emergence of conflict. The learning of ordinary things, the specific small education of living in a space with another person after you'd been alone in a space, or in spaces that weren't really yours. She learned that he woke at 5:30 regardless of anything, and that by 6 he had coffee made and was in his chair reading, and that this was the rhythm of his mornings, and it was consistent. Consistent in the way that she had come to value more than almost anything, the reliability of a pattern that held. She learned that he made dinner at 6:30, and that dinner was a real meal, cooked, not elaborate, but real. The kind of meal that took the actual effort of someone who understood that feeding people properly was a form of care. She started cooking on the 3rd week. She didn't ask. She came home from school one Thursday, and he wasn't back from the shop yet. And she went to the kitchen, and she looked at what was in the refrigerator, and she made pasta with the sauce she'd learned to make in her second placement. The one where the woman had been Italian and had cooked every Thursday, and had let Hazel watch and help until Hazel had it memorized. When Russell came home, he stood in the kitchen doorway and smelled what was happening. He looked at her. "You didn't have to," he started. "I wanted to," she said. "Tell me if I'm stepping on something." "You're not," he said. "It smells excellent." They ate the pasta. He had 3 servings, which she noted. "That's a good sauce," he said. "I'll teach you if you want," she said. He looked at her. "Yeah," he said. "I'd like that." She filed this. The "I'd like that" without qualification, without the self-consciousness that some adults brought to the idea of learning from a teenager. She was learning him. The way he said things, direct, without cushioning, but also without the cutting edge that directness sometimes carried. The way he read in the mornings in the chair with the lamp, with the specific attention of someone for whom reading was not leisure but practice. The way he talked about his work, the welding, the motorcycle builds, with the professional pride of someone who made things and cared about making them right. She was also, and this was the more complicated thing, learning what she felt about all of it. She had expected, she had armored herself against, the possibility of attachment, of finding something here that she allowed herself to want, which was the mechanism of getting hurt. She had made herself competent at living without wanting things too much. The competence was still there. But underneath it, something was happening that she was observing with the specific wariness of a scientist who suspects their hypothesis is being contradicted by data. She was, slowly and reluctantly, and with full awareness of what it might cost, beginning to feel safe. March. She met Patrick and Connie at Sunday dinner. Patrick Callahan was 52 years old and had the quality that the best of Russell's type had. The ease of someone who knew exactly what he was, who didn't need to announce or explain himself, who moved through rooms with the specific comfort of someone at home in their own skin. He had red hair going gray and a face that was used to laughing, and a handshake that was direct without being aggressive. He looked at Hazel when she came in with Russell. He looked at her and said, "You look like someone who's figured out how to handle herself." "I am," she said. He grinned. "Good. You'll need it around this one." Russell made a sound that was close to a long-suffering sigh, but wasn't quite. Connie was the opposite of Patrick in several specific ways. Where Patrick was large and vocal, Connie was compact and observant, the kind of person who watched the room first and spoke when she had something specific to contribute. She cooked everything, apparently, as a natural outgrowth of understanding that the act of feeding people was one of the primary languages of care. She looked at Hazel with the look of someone who was registering a great deal of information and would process it over time. "Hungry?" Connie said. "Yes," Hazel said. "Good," Connie said. "That's the right answer." Their children were 15 and 12, a girl named Abby and a boy named Cam. Abby was the 15-year-old, and she had the specific social awareness of someone who knew that Hazel's situation was not the usual Sunday dinner edition, and was being careful with that knowledge in a way that was thoughtful rather than performative. "What school are you at?" Abby said over dinner. "Birchwood County," Hazel said. "I transferred in March." "What's it like?" "Adequate," Hazel said. "The AP English is good. The history program is weaker than my old school." Abby looked at her. "You take AP as a junior." "AP English and AP History," Hazel said. "I'm on track for the calculus exam next year." Abby looked at Russell. Russell's expression was the expression of someone who was unsurprised by this information. "She told me in the first week," he said. "I've been trying to get myself to her level since." Hazel looked at him. He had said this with a specific quality, not mock modest, not performing humility. Something genuine. He was saying that she had something he respected. She looked at her plate. After dinner, Patrick found her in the kitchen while she was helping Connie with the dishes, because she'd offered to help, and Connie had accepted without the performance of, "Oh, you don't have to," that some people did. Patrick leaned in the doorway. "He's good people," he said to Hazel, quietly. She looked at him. "I know you're still figuring that out," Patrick said. "That's right. You should figure it out for yourself. You shouldn't take my word. But for what it's worth, from someone who's known him for 15 years, he's the best kind of person there is. He doesn't say things he doesn't mean. He doesn't make commitments he can't keep. And when he decides something matters to him..." Patrick paused. "He doesn't walk away from it." Hazel held a dish and looked at him. "Why are you telling me this?" she said. "Because I know what it takes for him to let someone in," Patrick said. "He doesn't do it easily. The fact that he went looking for you, that he did all of this..." He shook his head. "That's not nothing. I want you to know it's not nothing." She looked at the dish in her hands. "I know it's not nothing," she said. She put the dish on the rack. "I just don't know what to do with it yet," she said. Patrick nodded. "Fair," he said. "Take your time." April brought school picking up pace and the specific pressure of junior year becoming real, not in an alarming way, but in the way of weight that was appropriate, the weight of things that mattered. She stayed in the school library on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons to work. The librarian, a man named Mr. Foster, recognized what she was doing and left her alone, which was what she needed. The specific privacy of someone allowed to work without commentary. She was there on a Thursday in April, working on an essay for AP English, when her phone buzzed. "Russell, shop running late. Don't wait on dinner. There's leftover soup in the fridge." She looked at the message. She thought about what it meant. What it meant was that he'd thought to tell her. That in the middle of whatever job was running late, he had thought, "Hazel will be home by 5 and won't know where I am and should know there's food." She typed back, "Okay, I'll make something." "What time?" 3 dots. "Russell, 7 probably. You don't have to." "Hazel, I know. What do you want?" A pause. "Russell, surprise me." She looked at the message. She felt something she identified and put on the shelf and examined from a distance. The feeling was warm in the specific way of things you weren't expecting. She finished the essay. She went home. She made chicken with roasted vegetables, a recipe she knew by heart, with the particular care she brought to things she did for people she was beginning to not be indifferent to. He came home at 7:15. He stood in the kitchen and smelled the food. He looked at her. "You didn't have to," he said. "You said that last time," she said, "and the time before." "You keep not having to," he said. "Then stop saying I don't have to," she said. He sat down. She served the food. He ate with the specific attention of someone who was tasting rather than just consuming. "How was the essay?" he said. "Good," she said. "I argued that the way Fitzgerald uses color in Gatsby isn't symbolic in the traditional sense. It's diagnostic. The colors tell you what's wrong with a person's perception, not what things mean." He looked at her. "That's a specific argument. Ms. Park thinks it's worth developing," she said. Ms. Park was her AP English teacher, a woman who had, in the past 6 weeks, become something Hazel valued without wanting to overvalue. "Is she good?" Russell said. "She's one of the best teachers I've had," Hazel said, which is meaningful to say given how many schools I've been in. Russell nodded. He looked at his plate. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yes," she said. "The essay," he said. "The Fitzgerald argument. Where did that come from? The diagnostic idea." She thought about it. "I was thinking about how people see what they need to see instead of what's there," she said. "How the perception is the thing that's real to them, not the object." She paused. "It comes from, I've been doing that for years. Assessing situations, reading them, trying to see what's actually there rather than what I want to see or fear to see." "Why?" he said. She looked at him. "Because in my situation, misreading things has costs," she said. "Getting it wrong is expensive, so you train yourself to see accurately." He was quiet. "That's a skill most people never develop," he said. "Most people don't need it the way I do," she said. He looked at the table. "No," he said. "They don't." May. She had been there 3 months. She was not counting. She was aware that she was not counting, which was information. In previous placements, she had counted. She had known, in those placements, the number of days with the precision of someone tracking a resource that might run out. She was not counting here. One evening in May, she found him on the porch after dinner. Not on the steps, in the chair, with his coffee, looking at the yard. The May evening was warm in the specific way of Tennessee in May, the warmth that announced itself after February's refusal and March's hesitation. She went to the porch. She sat on the steps. They were quiet for a while. "I've been reading the book you had on the table," she said. "The history one." He looked at her. "The civil rights movement one?" "Yes," she said. "I have some questions about the section on voter registration." "Ask," he said. She asked. He answered. The answer was thorough. He'd read the book twice, she gathered, because the specific detail of his knowledge was not the detail of a single reading. They talked for 40 minutes about things she'd never talked about with anyone she lived with. The specific conversation of people who had both read something and were comparing what they'd found in it. After a while, she became aware that it was almost 9, and dark was settling in the specific way of spring evenings. "Russell," she said. "Yeah." "Why do you read history?" she said. "Specifically. What do you get from it?" He thought about it. "Understanding," he said. "Not abstract understanding. The kind where you see how things got to be the way they are. Why people make the choices they make. What the forces are that shape situations." He paused. "When I was young, I made choices I shouldn't have made. I made them partly because I didn't understand the forces. I thought things were simple when they weren't. I thought I was acting on my own terms when I was actually acting on conditions I hadn't analyzed." "History helped you see that," she said. "History gave me the tools," he said. "The specific skill of looking at a situation and asking, what came before this? What made this possible? What are the structural things rather than just the surface events?" She looked at the yard. "I do that," she said. "Naturally, I think. I trace things back." "Yes," he said. "I've noticed." She looked at him. "You notice things," she said. "I pay attention," he said. "It's a practice." She looked at the yard. "My mother," she said. "You said you paid attention to her." "Yes," he said. "What did you notice about her when you knew her?" He was quiet for a moment. "She was trying," he said. "That was the main thing. Even when things were hard, and they were hard for her in Memphis in those years, she was trying. She hadn't given up on the version of herself that was better than the circumstances." He paused. "That quality is rare. Most people, when circumstances are bad enough for long enough, eventually believe the circumstances. They start thinking, this is what I am, this is all I get. Your mother didn't. She kept having a sense of herself that was separate from the situation." Hazel was quiet. "I got that from her," she said. "Yes," he said. "I think you did." She looked at the May evening. She thought about her mother and the letters in the box and the upset look that was not anger. She thought about what it meant that her mother had kept those letters for years, had kept them in a box, had been upset when a 9-year-old found them. She thought about what it meant that a 48-year-old man had spent time trying to find a girl he'd never met because of who her mother was. "She would have wanted this," she said. "I think." He was quiet. "I think so too," he said. "She would have had opinions about you," she said. He made a sound that was close to a laugh. "She always had opinions," he said. "About everything. She didn't keep them to herself." "Neither do I," Hazel said. "I've noticed," he said. June. School ended. The summer began with the specific quality of summers when you were in a stable place, expansive in a way that previous summers, with their logistics of placement stability and the constant management of uncertainty, had not been. She helped in the shop. He'd offered it as an option, not a requirement, not even a strong suggestion. Just, if she wanted to, she could come to the shop. She'd said yes because she was curious about the work, which was an honest reason, and because spending time in his space felt like more information, which was also an honest reason. The shop was on Industrial Road, exactly as he'd said, in a building that had the quality of a place that had been used hard and maintained carefully. The two people who worked for him were a man named Drew, who was 30, and had the specific competence of someone who had been doing a thing long enough to do it excellently, and a woman named Frances who was 50 and who, when she saw Hazel, looked at her with the direct look of someone who had formed an opinion and was deciding whether to share it. She did eventually share it. On Hazel's third day in the shop, Frances said to her, while they were both watching Russell work on a rebuild, "He's a better man than he looks." Hazel looked at her. "He looks like a perfectly fine man." "He looks like a rough man," Frances said, "which he used to be and which he's not anymore. The distinction matters." "I know the distinction," Hazel said. Frances looked at her. "He told us about you," she said. "Not the details, the situation." "What did he say?" Hazel said. "He said he'd found your mother's daughter," Frances said, "and that she was, he said, sharp and serious, and the kind of person who doesn't miss things." Hazel looked at Russell across the shop. "He talks about you differently than he talks about anything else," Frances said. "He talks about the work with pride and the club with belonging. He talks about you with, I don't know, a different word. Care, maybe. The specific kind." Hazel was quiet. "He didn't tell you this," Frances said. "I'm telling you." "Why?" Hazel said. "Because you're 16 and you've been through the kind of things that make 16-year-olds suspicious of kindness," Frances said. "And I think you should know that the kindness here is real." Hazel looked at the shop. "I'm starting to know that," she said. July. A thing happened in July that she did not know how to feel about. She was in the kitchen making coffee on a Saturday morning when he came downstairs with a face she hadn't seen before. Not a bad face, not upset or angry. A different one, the face of someone carrying something that had weight. "What's wrong?" she said. He sat at the table. "I got a call last night," he said, "after you were in bed." She waited. "It was about a situation with a member of the club," he said. "Someone who needs... There's going to be some activity in the next few weeks that I need to be available for." She looked at him. "Club business," she said. "Yes," he said. "You said club business was separate," she said. "It is," he said. "I'm not telling you the details. I'm telling you that I might not be home at the usual time some evenings, and I want you to know why." She considered this. "You're warning me," she said. "I don't want you to come home and find me not there without knowing there's a reason," he said. She poured her coffee. She sat across from him. "Russell," she said. "Yeah." "I appreciate that you're warning me," she said. "That's the right thing to do." "But," he said, "but I want to know, if the club business ever creates a situation where I'm not safe." "That's not going to happen," he said. "If it did," she said, "I need to know that you'd tell me, and that you'd put my safety over the club's needs." He met her eyes. "Yes," he said. Without hesitation. "Without hesitation," he said. She looked at her coffee. "Okay," she said. "You can ask Patrick," he said, "about who I am when those two things are in conflict. You can ask Connie. They know." "I might," she said. "You should," he said. "You should always verify." She looked at him. "You're telling me to check your references," she said. "I'm telling you to not take me on faith when you have better options," he said. "Faith is for when you don't have the information. You can get the information." She looked at the table. She thought about what it meant that he was telling her this, that he was actively directing her toward the sources that would verify his character rather than asking her to simply believe him, that he understood the structure of what she needed and was providing it without being asked. She filed this, the specific file of things that were not nothing. She called Patrick. She did it directly, without telling Russell she was going to. Patrick answered on the second ring. She asked him about the club and what it meant for Russell's reliability, and what happened when club obligations and other commitments conflicted. Patrick was quiet for a moment. "He told you to call me," Patrick said. "Yes," she said. "He's right to," Patrick said. "Okay, I'll tell you what I know." He was quiet, organizing. "The club is important to Russell. It's been the main constant in his adult life, and it's genuine. It's not performance, it's not image. He belongs to it, the way some people belong to their family." He paused. "But, and I want to be precise about this, there's a hierarchy in what he's committed to. It's not the club at the top. The club is part of who he is. But when something else is the right thing, he knows the difference." "How do you know that?" she said. "Because I've watched him," Patrick said. "For 15 years. I've watched him in situations where the club wanted one thing, and his own sense of what was right wanted another, and I've seen how he navigated it. He paused. I'm not going to tell you he always got it right. He didn't. He's not perfect. But the mistakes he's made haven't been about putting the wrong thing first. She was quiet. And specifically, about you, she said. If there were a conflict between something I needed and something the club needed. There's no contest, Patrick said. He went looking for you. He did the process, the paperwork, the evaluation. He changed his house for you. He changed his life for you. That's not something he does for the club. The club is where he belongs, but you're what he chose. He paused. Do you understand the difference? She was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said. Good, Patrick said. She sat with the phone in her hand after the call ended. She thought about what he'd said. You're what he chose. She put the phone down. She sat in the quiet of the house that she had been in for 5 months, and that smelled like coffee and books, and the sawdust that came from the workshop on his boots, and the specific smell of a place that was someone's, and was increasingly becoming hers too. August. She was 17 on a Tuesday in August, and Russell made a cake. He was not, by his own admission, an accomplished baker. He said this when he presented it, a chocolate cake that had been executed with the earnestness of someone working outside their comfort zone, and that was slightly lopsided on the right side, and had frosting that was applied with enthusiasm rather than precision. He put it on the table. He stood behind it. He looked at her. She looked at the cake. You made this, she said. I followed a recipe, he said, which I have never done before. The recipe and I have a complicated relationship. She looked at the cake. She looked at the slight lean to the right. She looked at the frosting, which was present everywhere but with variable thickness. She started. Don't, he said. I know what it is. I'm choosing to present it with confidence anyway. She looked at him. And then she laughed. She laughed in the specific way she rarely laughed, all the way through, without managing it, without measuring it. She laughed at the lopsided cake and the frosting and his expression of dignity in the face of clear evidence against it. He watched her laugh. His expression changed while she laughed. Something moved through it that she caught at the edge of her vision and didn't quite capture. Something in the specific region of relief. Happy birthday, Hazel, he said. She looked at him. Thank you, she said. They ate the cake. It was, under the circumstances, very good. September began senior year. Senior year at Birchwood County High was a different proposition from the previous placement schools because she had been there since March and was known. Known in the way of a student who had been there long enough for teachers to have formed accurate impressions and for classmates to have understood that she was the kind of person who didn't need to announce herself. Her AP calculus teacher asked her in the first week if she'd consider tutoring 2 other students. She said yes, because she did things she could do well. She began applying to colleges in October. This was the process she'd researched extensively, the process she'd had a plan for, before the plan required Russell. She had the plan, she had the resources, she had the fee waivers from Sandra, and the applications and the essays. She worked on the essays with the thoroughness she brought to all writing, the thoroughness that Miss Park said was her best quality and her most important tool. Russell sat with her at the kitchen table on a Sunday evening in October while she worked on the Common App essay. He was reading the history book he was currently on, about the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. He read, and she wrote, and occasionally she said something out loud that was part of the thinking through that writing required, and he responded or didn't, exactly as needed, with the specific attunement of someone who had learned her rhythms. She stopped and looked at him. He looked up from his book. What? He said. You're good at this, she said. At what? Being here without making being here into something, she said. Just being present without it becoming... She stopped. Most adults I've lived with couldn't do that. They either weren't present or they made their presence into something I owed them something for. He looked at her. Being present is the minimum, he said. You'd think, she said. It's not. He put down the book. What are you writing about? He said. The essay. I'm trying to figure out, she said. The prompt is about a significant challenge and what it taught me, and I have... She looked at the screen. I have an obvious answer and a true answer, and I'm not sure they're the same thing. Tell me both, he said. The obvious answer is the system, she said. 4 years in foster care. The challenges of that. What I learned about resilience and self-reliance. That's the essay they expect. And the true answer, he said. She was quiet for a moment. The true answer is that the challenge that taught me the most was this year, she said. Learning to trust something. Learning to let a situation be good without waiting for it to go wrong. He was very still. Learning that, she said carefully, is the hardest thing I've done. Because my whole apparatus, everything I built for the system, was designed to not need things to be good, to operate in the absence of good. And then something was actually good, and the whole apparatus kept telling me to wait for it to fail, and I had to. She stopped. Choose, he said. Choose, she said. To believe the information in front of me, rather than the expectation I'd built. He looked at the table. Write that, he said. It's personal, she said. The best essays are, he said. It mentions you, she said. He looked at her. You don't have to protect me from being mentioned, he said. She looked at the screen. Okay, she said. She wrote for another hour. When she was done, she read it back. She examined it with the precision she brought to her own work. It was good. It was honest. And it was specific, and it said the thing that was true. Can I read it? He said. She turned the laptop. He read. He was a slow reader when he was reading carefully. She'd observed this, the way he moved through things he was really reading versus things he was skimming. He was reading carefully. He read to the end. He looked at the screen for a moment. He looked at her. This is the best thing I've read this year, he said, including everything on that shelf. She looked at him. That's a high bar, she said. I know what I'm saying, he said. She looked at the screen. She thought about what she'd written, about the year, about the apparatus she'd built and the choosing she'd done. Russell, she said. Yeah. I need to tell you something, she said. He waited. I'm not going to... She stopped, started again. I've been careful, all year, about how much I let this matter, about how much I let you matter, because of the history, because of what happens when you let things matter. I know, he said. I'm telling you that I've stopped being as careful, she said. I'm telling you that, she looked at the table, that I'm not waiting for it to fail anymore. He was quiet. I'm telling you that because you should know, she said. And because it feels like something I should say out loud rather than just, Hazel, he said. She looked at him. His face had the quality it sometimes had. The full quality, the one she'd started being able to read, the one that held more than his expression showed. I know, he said. I've been watching it change. You've been watching it, she said. I pay attention, he said. She looked at the laptop, at the essay, at the words she'd written about the hardest thing being the learning to trust. Okay, she said. Good, he said. He picked up his book. She went back to the application. November. The first acceptance letter came from a school in Ohio, a university with a strong English program and merit scholarship availability, the one she'd been most specifically hoping for. She got it on a Thursday after school, via email, while she was on the bus home. She read it on her phone. She read it twice. She sat on the bus and looked at the email and felt something she did not manage into a shelf. She felt it fully, the specific feeling of something she'd worked for being confirmed, the feeling of effort recognized, of the future opening in the specific direction she'd been pushing it. She got off at her stop. She walked to the house. She opened the front door. Russell was in the kitchen. She stood in the doorway. He looked up. He read her face. What happened? He said. She held up her phone with the email open. He took the phone. He read it. He read it again. He put the phone down on the table. He looked at her. Something moved through his face that she couldn't name at first, and then she could. It was the specific thing she'd been observing in fragments since February, the thing that had been building in the accumulated evidence of a year, and she now had the word for it. Pride. Not the possessive kind. Not the claiming kind. The specific kind that came from watching someone do something they'd worked for without any diminishment of the doing being theirs. The pride of someone who had been present without being responsible, who had believed without having determined the outcome. Hazel, he said. I know, she said. This is... He stopped. He was not a person who ran out of words often. He ran out of words. I know, she said. She sat at the table. He sat across from her. Ohio is, he started. Far, she said. I know. I was going to say that Ohio has a good program, he said. That's what I was going to say. She looked at him. It does, she said. And the scholarship? Partial, she said. I'm applying for the need-based edition, with Sandra's help, and there are... She started enumerating. She had a plan. She'd always had a plan. The plan now had a concrete destination. He listened. When she finished, he said, "What do you need from me?" She thought about the question. "I need you to be honest if any of this doesn't add up," she said. "Financially. I've run the numbers, but I might have gotten something wrong." "Show me the numbers," he said. She showed him. He looked at them with the attention he brought to things that mattered. "There's a gap," he said. "I know," she said. "About 6,000 in year one, if the additional scholarship doesn't come through." He looked at the numbers. "I'll cover it," he said. She looked at him. "Russell, I'll cover it," he said again, the same tone that closed arguments. "This is not a discussion." She looked at the numbers. "I'll pay you back," she said. "You won't," he said. "I will," she said. "Hazel." He met her eyes. "You went into college because you worked hard and you're capable. This is me removing an obstacle. It's not a transaction. You don't pay back the removing of obstacles." She held his gaze. "I'm going to want to," she said. "I know," he said. "You can want to all you like. You're going to go to school and not worry about the money." She looked at the table. She thought about the process, the paperwork, the home study, the house visit, the porch conversations in February. She thought about the book on the table and the coffee in the mornings and the lopsided birthday cake and the Sunday dinners and the 40 minutes of history discussion on the porch in May. She thought about the essay she'd written and the true answer she'd found. "Russell," she said. "Yeah. I want to ask you something," she said. "The same question I asked before." "Ask it," he said. "What do you want from this?" she said. "From me, specifically, after I go to Ohio. What do you need from this?" He was quiet for a moment. "I need you to come home for holidays," he said. "I need you to call. I need to know that..." He stopped. She waited. "I need to know that it meant something," he said. "Not to me. It already means something to me. I need to know that what I was trying to give you actually did something, that I wasn't too late." She looked at him. "You weren't too late," she said. He looked at the table. "Russell," she said. He looked up. "You changed things," she said. "I need you to know that. You changed the specific things that needed changing. The blueprint I had, the one that assumed everything would be done alone. I don't have that blueprint anymore. I have a different one." She paused. "That's because of this year. Because of you." He held her gaze. He said nothing. Some things, she'd learned, he received in silence. Not because the silence was indifference, but because the thing received was too large for immediate words, because it needed to be held for a moment before it could be spoken about. She was learning his silences the way she was learning everything about him, by paying attention. She got up. She put her hand on his shoulder for a moment, brief, the gesture of someone who was still learning how to be physical with care, who was practicing the things she hadn't had practice with. And then she went to the refrigerator to start dinner. He stayed at the table. She heard him pick up his book. December, the house at Christmas. She had not spent Christmas in a home that felt like a home in 4 years. The Calloway house had Christmas in the practical way of a house with 7 children, presents, a tree, the functional observance of the holiday. She did not diminish it, but it was not what Christmas was supposed to be in the specific way that she had, somewhere below the apparatus of management, still believed Christmas was supposed to be something. Russell put up a tree on the 15th of December. He put it up with the focus of someone who was doing something he hadn't done in a while, possibly many years, she thought, watching him, and who was taking it seriously. He got the lights right on the 3rd try. He put things on it that she gathered had been in a box somewhere. Old ornaments, the kind that told a story of duration, things that had been on trees for years. She stood beside him while he hung them. "Where are these from?" she said. She held up an ornament, a small tin star, old, the kind you found at flea markets or inherited. He looked at it. "My grandmother's," he said. "I took some of her things when she died. She was the good adult in my life when I was young." She looked at the tin star. "I'll hang it," she said. She hung it carefully. They put the tree up together, and she found in the putting up a specific thing she was not going to manage into a shelf. She was going to feel it and let it be what it was. What it was this. A person hanging a tin star on a Christmas tree in a house that was hers, with someone who had chosen her, and the star belonging to someone who had been a good adult, to someone who had then grown up and decided to try to be a good adult to her. The lineage of the good adults. She hung the star. Christmas Day. Patrick and Connie came, with Abby and Cam. Connie brought food. Of course Connie brought food. This was what Connie did, and it was never anything less than excellent. Abby and Hazel had, over the months, developed the specific relationship of two people who were not quite friends and not quite sisters and were finding their own category, which involved a lot of mutual respect and occasional disagreement and the underlying recognition of having been brought into each other's lives by circumstance and found the circumstance worthwhile. Dinner was at the table with all the leaves in it. After dinner, they sat in the living room with the tree lit and the December dark outside and the specific warmth of people who had ended up in the same room and were glad about it. Patrick told a story about a club run that had gone significantly wrong in a specific and funny way, and by the end of it Connie was crying from laughing, and Hazel was laughing in the full way, the way she'd laughed at the lopsided cake. Russell was watching her. She caught him watching. He didn't look away, which was a thing she'd noted about him. He didn't deflect when caught doing something real. He just continued to be doing it. She looked at him. He looked back. He said, across the room, quietly enough that it was just for her, "Good Christmas." She looked at the room, at Connie still laughing and Patrick embellishing the wrong-run story for Cam's benefit, and Abby looking at her phone and the tree with the tin star and the fire in the fireplace that Russell had lit at 4 p.m. She looked at all of it. "Good Christmas," she said. January. The second acceptance letter came, then a third. By February, she had 4 acceptances and 3 scholarship offers, and the specific shape of the next 2 years becoming clear in the way of things that had been planned for and were now real. She was going to Ohio. This was settled by the end of January, and they both knew it, and neither of them made it into something it needed to be managed around. She was going. It was good. It was the right thing. These were the facts. She was studying in her room on a Saturday afternoon in February, exactly 1 year, she noted, from the Saturday she'd sat on the porch steps and first heard his name, when he knocked on the open door. She looked up. He was in the doorway, leaning on the frame the way he sometimes did. He had something in his hand, a piece of paper. "What?" she said. He came in. He put the paper on the desk. She looked at it. It was a form. A legal form, specifically, the kind with the official header and the formal language. She read the header. She went very still. It was a petition for legal guardianship. Not foster care, guardianship. The legal relationship that was different from foster care in specific and significant ways. The relationship that continued past 18, that was not terminated by age out. She looked at it. She looked at him. "You filed this," she said. "I'm filing it," he said. "If you agree." She looked at the form. She read it. Her name was on it. His name was on it. The language was the language of legal documents, precise and cold on the surface and underneath something entirely different. "This continues after I'm 18, she said. "Yes," he said. "It's not. This isn't about the system anymore. This is legal. It keeps going." "Yes," he said. She looked at him. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I know," he said. "I'm going to Ohio in August," she said. "I know," he said. "This doesn't change. This doesn't change the day-to-day of anything," she said. "It changes what you're called," he said. "And what I'm called. Legally." She looked at the form. She thought about everything the form implied, about what it meant for him, the legal commitment of it, the ongoing nature of it, the specific choosing of it past the age where choosing was a practical necessity. She thought about the porch in February, about for now said about a name. "Russell," she said. "Yeah," he said. "When I asked you what to call you," she said. "Back in February, last year, you said Russell was fine. You said for now." He was quiet. "You were already thinking about this," she said. "No," he said. "I wasn't. Not specifically, but..." He paused. "I knew for now wasn't the end of the sentence." She looked at the form. She thought about what the form would mean. The practical thing it would change and the larger thing it would mean. The legal status of it and the human reality underneath the legal status. She thought about the essay she'd written, about the blueprint she no longer had, the one that assumed everything was done alone. She looked at him. "If I sign this," she said, "what do I call you?" He held her gaze. "Whatever you want to call me," he said. "That's your choice. Always has been." She looked at the form. She thought about what was true, about the year behind them and the year that had made the year before it mean something different than it had before. She thought about the tin star and the lopsided cake and the porch in May and the coffee every morning and the books and the 45 minutes of reading before anything else, and the "I'll cover it" and the dinner at 6:30 and the Tuesday and Thursday school runs and the history conversations and the "you don't pay back the removing of obstacles." She thought about what she wanted to call him. She thought about the word. She had been careful with the word for a year. She'd kept it at a distance. She'd examined it from the outside, this word that was so large and so weighted with history and with what it meant and what it could cost and what it could be, incorrectly, and what it could be, correctly, if the situation warranted it. She picked up the pen. She looked at the form. "Don't look back," he said. She looked at him. His voice had been quiet when he said it, not dramatic, the way he said everything, direct, without performance. "What?" she said. "Don't look back at all the reasons to be careful," he said. "You know all those reasons. They're good reasons. They've kept you safe." He looked at her. "But there's a place where you have enough information, and the caution becomes its own kind of loss. And I think you're at that place." She held the pen. She looked at him. She thought about what he'd said, about the place where you had enough information. She had a year of information. She had the specific, accumulated, documented, verified, lived information of a year, in a house with a man who read history in the mornings and made lopsided birthday cakes and covered financial gaps without calling them transactions, and filed legal guardianship petitions in February because the "for now" had needed a next thing. She had enough information. She signed the form. She put the pen down. She looked at him. And she said the word she'd been keeping at a distance, the one she'd been careful with, the one she was done being careful about. "Okay," she said. "Dad." The word landed in the room. It was not the word's first existence in the world. It was one of the most common words in any language, said approximately 10 million times a day in 1,000 contexts. But it had never been said by her, to him, and the specific fact of its being said made it into something it had not been before. He looked at her. She looked at him. He was 48 years old, and he had a gray beard and dark eyes, and he had built a life on his own terms, and for 21 years had belonged to something, and for 1 year had chosen someone to belong to in the different way, the specific way that this word described. She could see it, she could read him. He was holding something. He was doing the thing he did with things that were too large for immediate words. He was receiving it. She held his gaze. "Dad," she said again. Not louder, just confirming. He nodded. Not an ordinary nod. The nod of someone acknowledging something that had weight. The deliberate nod of someone who had just received something real. "Hazel," he said. She looked at him. "Thank you," he said. She looked at the form on the desk. "Don't thank me," she said. "You did the work." "You did the harder work," he said. She thought about that, about the harder work, about the choosing to believe the information, about the blueprint she'd replaced, about the word she'd just said, and the 1 year that had made the word true before the form made it legal. "We both did," she said. He nodded. He picked up the form. He folded it. He went to the door. He stopped. "Ohio," he said. "Yes," she said. "You're going to be..." He stopped. "Say it," she said. "You're going to be extraordinary," he said. "You already are." She looked at the desk. She looked at the books on the shelf. Her books now, the ones she'd accumulated over the year in this room that was hers. "I'm going to be home for Thanksgiving," she said. "Good," he said. "And Christmas," she said. "Good," he said. "And summers if..." "Hazel," he said. She looked at him. "The room is always yours," he said. "That's not a question. That's not conditional. The room is always yours." She looked at the room, the south-facing window that got light in the mornings. The desk where she'd written the essay about the hardest thing being the learning to trust. The shelf of books that were hers. "Okay," she said. He went back downstairs. She heard him in the kitchen. The sound of the coffee maker. The specific domestic sound of a person in a house that was their home, doing the ordinary thing that ordinary homes contained. She turned back to her work. She looked at the AP calculus problem she'd been on before he knocked. She looked at the south-facing window. February light. Different now than last February. Same window, different light, same month, different everything. She thought about 1 year. She thought about what a year could do. She thought about the specific words she'd said, and what it meant that she'd said it, and the specific quality of receiving it that she'd seen in his face, and that she was keeping in the permanent record. She thought about the essay, about the true answer, about the learning to trust. She picked up her pen. She worked. Downstairs, the coffee maker finished its work. In a house on the road with the trees, in February, a year from a porch, and a question, and the careful beginning of something that had, over 12 months of ordinary days and extraordinary ones, become what it became. What it became was this: a father and a daughter, one chosen and the other choosing, neither of them the same as they'd been before, both of them better for the year between. What it became was home.